If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, full-time, sometime observer, joined by former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association, smiling Jack Hirsch. Jack, I want to throw a curveball, right off the bat before you can go on. What's up with the Michael Spinks book?
Oh, yeah, Frank, don't ambush me like that. But actually, it's okay. You can get it right now.
Don't ambush me. I asked him about his book, Brian.
No, I'm not too pleased with the slow pace with the publisher. However, it did just come out the past week where you can order it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble if you go to the site, the websites of Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Frank, we're old timers, but a lot of people have Amazon accounts, a Barnes and Noble accounts. You could get it that way, and it's going to be out very soon in the coming days, but you can order it right now.
Now, this is what I will have to do.
You're going to order a copy. You're going to be the 244th person who's asking me for a freebie. That's what I want to know.
I'm not. No, there's a Barnes and Noble about a mile away from my house, and I will go get it.
No, Frank, have your woman go on the Amazon account and order it that way. Do it that way right now, because by the time it gets to the store, I don't know when Barnes and Noble has it. They decide when to ship it. Same with Amazon.
What's the title?
Michael Jinx Spinks. I'm going to have Michael on. It should be in a couple of weeks, I assume, even though this publisher I have has been letting me down with this slow pace that's been taking forever. That's why I didn't want to talk about it until it became an absolute reality. It's only a partial reality in that you can order the book now if you go, like I said, on the Amazon and Barnes and Noble sites. You can order the book, but when is it going to get delivered? But that's fairly common, Frank. I mean, I ordered a book on the New York, a friend of mine who wrote a book on the New York Yankees. I could even say his name, Paul Semending. It's part of this network. But his book hasn't arrived yet. That's the way it works sometimes in the book business. You order a book and then it might come out a month or two later. But they take your order and then they send it at the appropriate time.
I see J-Train wants an autographed copy.
Yeah, well, J-Train didn't say he didn't say who he wanted autographed. He wants Michael.
No, he says from Jack. He said, I want an autographed copy, Jack.
No. J-Train wants me to get Michael Spinks' autograph and then deliver the book from Jack. I'm only kidding. I'm flattered. J-Train's a big part of this network, and he's a great sport, losing all those debates to me and still keeping his head held up high. You got to admire a guy like that.
Jack, word count doesn't mean he lost the debate.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't taken the stats, but I think Brian has given me the nod in his decisions. But whatever.
Brian rules on the debates about who wins. J-Train. See, he knows.
Yeah. We have a guest today. We have a boxing promoter, Larry Goldberg. Not one of the big names, but we'll give him a good introduction when he comes on there, because he's done a lot to keep boxing alive in New York City and in Atlantic City as well. Recently had a show in Atlantic City. We'll talk to him about that, some of his past shows about promoting. But the big news in boxing, Frank, today, Top Rank is back in the picture, signing for TV dates with DAZN. Okay, they signed for 8 to 10 TV dates. DAZN reportedly told them if they want to make additional shows, they should go ahead, try to make them, and then they'll see whether they're going to put them on, and we'll see where this leads. So there's a promotional war going on, Frank, that Dana White kind of stirred up. And I'm not knocking Dana White for it, But Dana White went after everyone, and even Bob Arum. He said, well, he has no TV deal, so how's he a threat to me? How am I competing with a guy with no
Kind of
TV
hard to argue
deal?
with that, isn't it?
Right. And he went after Eddie Hearn. I'm going to tell you, I see people talking on behalf of Dana White, and whoever wins this battle, as long as it helps boxing. But I'm going to be honest about it. If Dana White tries to take on the cartel and they band together Arum, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, I could virtually guarantee Dana White, for all his success in the UFC, is going to take a butt whipping from those guys because Dana White won't get it. He could throw all the money he wants at certain other fighters. He's going to lose a ton of money in the beginning. And these fighters are under contract with these other promotional groups. They can't just fly the coop. And Dana White won't be able to afford the vast majority of them. I know his strategy. He's overpaying in the beginning, and then
Which they all do.
It's like signing a free agent in baseball or football. You're signing them for a lot of years, not looking at what the back end of the deal is going to be. The beginning looks great, but then the back end of the deal, the guy is struggling to, just perform, and you're paying out all this money. It's what these teams do.
Jack, we disagree on this. I will bet on Dana White only because I just think he's more forward thinking. I think he's more in touch with the fans today, the athletes, and he knows what they want. And if he runs out of money, that'll be a big problem. But I think that he'll recoup some before he gets to that point, and he'll be on his way. If he wants to really be a player, I would not bet against him. I mean, and you talk about the top ranked fights, they're going to be on DAZN, right?
On DAZN.
So, Jack, think about that. That's not like having an ESPN deal.
No, everyone is on DAZN now.
But I'm saying DAZN, nobody watches DAZN except hardcore fans. It's not expanding the base of fans. If Dana White becomes part of the deal, I think there's a better chance that will happen. Jack, Mike Tyson said recently, and Lehman Pauly told me this, so I'm going to quote his quote to me, that today he said, these guys, the fighters of today, he said he goes, I don't even know if it's the money. He said, I just don't think that they want to fight. And if they don't fight, there's no story. And that's why the sport has not maintained where it was when we knew it because of the competition. And look, I don't want to hear there's not good fighters, because there are fighters out there, Usyk, Crawford, Boots, those guys, they could have competed in any level, any era. Inoue, same thing. It's not so much that, Jack. It's these guys won't fight.
I hate that term, Frank, to say any modern athlete in his sport. Well, he could have competed.
I'm talking about the elite guys today, Jack, not the mean, the elite.
The modern athlete is better than the old timers. So I don't want to hear, well, could the elite guys have competed with the fighters from 60 years ago? Yeah, of course they could have. Could the guys from back then have competed with the guys today? I'll give you an example. If you put a Carlos Ortiz up against the Shakur Stevenson, as great as Carlos Ortiz was, he's going to lose that fight. As great as he was, and he's an all-time great. I mean, Shakur Stevenson would give Roberto Duran probably fits. Would I bet on Duran? Push comes to shove? Probably. Okay? But you're talking about the exception to the rule. I mean,
but Jack, the tide was higher then. The tide was higher, and only the elite got title shots because there was only one champ. And to say Shakur Stevenson would beat Carlos Ortiz, Jack, I think Shakur is really good. But I mean, who's on his record that even competes with that? Who he beat Teofimo Lopez?
Yeah. look, that's a debate maybe for another time to dig into, the modern athletes, whatever, because we're talking about with the zone. And you do make a good point. Dana White's UFC is affiliated with ESPN. And if ESPN signs an exclusive deal with Dana White for boxing, UFC, the whole thing, he has an advantage there as far as visibility goes, because ESPN is the network at the end that's generally watched. Okay, but people know about events. Look, Netflix, they did Tyson Jake Paul. They're doing these other crazy exhibitions. Jake Paul is putting real fights, women matches on Netflix shows. David
It's a
Benavidez
start. I'll give you that. It's a start.
David Benavidez against Zerto Ramirez. That's going to be on Netflix, actually. And people are going to tune in for that. I mean,
So Netflix is putting on shows that we would see on Saturday and Sunday 20 years ago.
Canelo and Terrence Crawford. Wasn't that on Netflix? Okay.
Yes.
And look, yeah, okay. So, even if Dana White gets the contract with ESPN to do boxing, which would help an awful lot, I mean, there's the competition out there. But this is a good thing with Top Rank getting these shows, because Top Rank didn't have a TV deal. They're back in the game. And Top Rank knows what they're doing, and they have a good stable of fighters. Okay?
Yeah, you're right.
Alexander Zayas, who looks like he's fighting Boots Ennis now, because the Virgil Ortiz fight fell apart. And who knows what's going to go down with Virgil
Are you
Ortiz.
confident that fight will happen, Zayas and Ennis?
I think
you hesitated. You're not. You hesitated. You hesitated.
I'm not. No, I'll tell you why I hesitate. I think normally the answer would be no. Eddie Hearn is going to have to overpay Top Rank for Alexander Zayas for that fight. He's going to overpay. Top Rank will be associated with the promotion, but Eddie Hearn might be the main guy per se. And they'll generate more money for Zayas' fight than Top Rank or anyone else could, because Eddie Hearn has to keep Boots Ennis happy. He knows Boots Ennis is a future star. He's a star now, but I'm talking about a major star down the line. And it would have happened had he fought Virgil Ortiz. I think Boots would have won in style and been a major star.
But Jack, it takes two. I'm sure Eddie Hearn wants that fight to happen. But if I'm part of the Xander Zayas team, I'm not sure I want that fight. That kid's what, 22 years old? I'm not sure I want that fight, even if he's 24. I don't think I want that fight, because that could be a career ender for Xander Zayas, for him to go on to bigger and better things. There are ways to get around fighting Boots. He doesn't have to. So my point is, I'm not as sure as you that fight will happen. Should it happen?
The amount of money
it should.
He's going to get is going to make it worth it. It's going to be life-altering money. And if I was in charge of Zayas, and even if I thought he was going to lose decisively, I'm going to look at the money he gets and say, I'm managing him. He's going to be set for life after this fight.
What's life-altering money, Jack? $15 million?
He's not going to get that much. No.
Well, then I don't know if I would take that fight.
Zayas would get in the range, I would think, $7-8 million.
I don't know if that's life altering today, Jack, because he'll walk away with $3.5 million. That's not enough money for a guy like that to live the rest of his life, assuming he's never going to get another big fight. And if he gets mutilated, he goes way to the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure the exact value of the fight with the numbers. Could it be 15 million? I don't think it would be that high. We have Larry Goldberg, boxing promoter, backstage, coming on as a guest tonight. So let's bring Larry into the studio. You see, Frank, you chased him off. You've been known to do
Jack.
That.
He saw that you were about to take a butt whipping, and he said, let's wait to see Jack get slapped around by Frank a little bit on life-altering money.
I got to tell you, a funny story. If Larry comes on, I'll cut it off. It's to be continued. You talk about getting slapped around. I was buddies with Johnny Boz. Remember Johnny Boz? Big
Of
giant
course.
guy, matchmaker, mountain of a man. We were hanging outside an arena once, and he was telling a story about one of the fighters. And to make his point, he turned to me, and Boz was my buddy. And he said, "Right, Jack?" And I go, "No." And Boz was kind of humiliated. He slapped me in the face. But at the moment of impact, he stopped, and it made a noise because he realized what he was doing. He was my friend, but he went, and then everyone watching laughed because it looked like a big joke. But it bothered me that night because I knew Boz slapped me for real. I called Boz the next day, and Boz is denying. He's saying, "What's the matter with you? You think I'd slap you for real? If you did, you'd be on the floor." Blah, 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 blah. He's complaining. I'm insulted because Boz at the point of impact realized what he did. So Boz slaps me in the face, and I wind up apologizing to him the next day because his feelings are hurt that I would, think that he would actually do it. Well, he did do it. Okay, Larry Goldberg is here.
Hello.
Hey, Larry.
Hi, Larry.
How you guys
You
doing?
came
Thank you
just
so
in
much.
time, Larry. Jack was just about to get jabbed up a little bit. Now you saved him.
Uh-oh.
Well, yeah, Larry would he could put you on one of his shows. Frank was a former fighter. This is Larry Goldberg, boxing promoter, New York based, promotes New York, Atlantic City. Larry, some people are giving you credit for kind of reviving boxing in Atlantic City. Not to the point of the old days, I'm not going to try to embellish
The old
it
days
too
are never
much.
coming back.
But
Never.
But you had a show recently there, and I watched it. Larry, on YouTube. It was live on YouTube. Okay, too. So with all the high-priced televised things, and you had good fights. You even had on Madonna's former boyfriend. Okay, on there.
I'm not proud of a couple of those fights.
And you had a crazy main event that ended so controversially. The two guys were like wrestling, and one fell on top of the other, but they were entertaining fights. How long have you been promoting, Larry?
I did an amateur show in April of 2022, and then we came back and did a pro show in October of 2022. And the show you were just speaking of was my 20th show since then.
Which is awesome. Now, you promoted most of them initially at Stony Hall in Manhattan.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And the one thing, Larry, we were talking about promoters and TV deals, Frank and myself, at the outset of the show. If there's one thing I would advise you to do, and I don't know, have you started doing it? Initially, you didn't do it. I may have mentioned it to you casually. You might not remember. You have to sign some guys to promotional contracts. You're doing like a la carte shows with these guys. Now, of course, if a guy gets big, you hope he would remember you helping build him up. You would hope that. But this is boxing here. There's no loyalty there. I mean,
None.
Frank would dump me for another co-host if it would benefit him, and we've been together for years. This is
If he had a heartbeat.
we're talking about.
Frank, let's talk.
Larry, I have a couple questions for you, but before I do, I just want you to answer one question for me.
Okay.
Do you think $7 million is life-altering money?
Yes.
For a
You do.
fighter.
Yes.
So if
What
you're
would you-
Xander Zayas, would you fight Boots Ennis for $7 million knowing that you're probably going to get taken apart, and after taxes and you pay everybody, you're probably going to net $3 million, but your status as an elite fighter is going to be so tarnished, it may take years and years to get it back if you can?
Well, those are two different questions. Question number one is for the three of us, $7 million to go live our normal lives would be life-changing money. For a fighter, with the expenses, with the drama, with the ups and downs, knowing how they spend money, it's not as much money. It's not as much money to him as it would be to us. And Floyd Mayweather is a perfect example of that. So it's hard to it's sort of hard to kind of step into their shoes because you don't know who's in their life, who's got their hands in their pocket, how much of that they're getting, are they brokers, managers, other promoters? Well, I've learned the hard way doing this. And there's something Jack and I spoke of on the phone once was, I've learned horrible business practices by being in boxing, and there's a lot of people out there that have their hands out. So what might sound like a lot of money might not be a lot of money.
Okay. So I'm going to take that as you agree with me. Okay.
No, but there's more to it. It's just more to it. Zayas would have, if he fought Bustinis, it might be close to 10 million. Top Rank would take their cut as his promoter, which is understandable, which
of course.
Is fine. It's about 20% they would take. So let's say, am I correct with that? It's approximately 20%. Maybe 25 now.
Out of 10 million, Jack, he walks away with about 4.7.
Okay, but if he doesn't take it, how good is Zayas? He'd have to make several title defenses to make that amount of money. He'd have to make about 5 title defenses. And he's not, and how do you know he's not going to lose in the meantime?
But Jack, we know today that the guys can pick and choose who they fight. If he gets demolished by Ennis, his brand is severely tarnished. I wouldn't take the money. Larry, here's my question for you. Okay. Why did you get into promoting? Because you just said you learned a lot, and a promoter has to deal with so many things, people lying to him, egos, people saying they have money when they don't. You have to pay for meds and everything. It seems like a lot of work, and I don't know if the return is there.
I'm sort of at that point right now, 20 shows in. I remember you wanted to know why I got into it. It was after the pandemic. There was nothing going on. And like everybody else, how many boxing fights have we been to? And you're sitting around daydreaming. Well, I could do this. No, I never sat around and said that at like a PBC show or a Top Rank show. But, I used to, I grew up in Atlantic City, so I used to go to all the club fights. So it was more like looking at what Russell Peltz was doing and promoters like that. And I'm just like, this is what I wanted to do growing up. So when the opportunity came, I took it, and it was really just supposed to be a one-time thing. Like, I remember having a conversation with some of my friends, and it was just like, we were on the boxing gym, and it was just like, it would be really cool to do a fight in New York. Or like, we went through all the list. I'm like, there probably has been like 50, 60 promoters in the last 50 years that have put on a singular boxing event in Manhattan. So it would have been cool to do it. And then we did it, and it was just like, the venue liked us, and it was just, all right, let's do it again.
And then you got the bug.
And then let's do it again. And, I've had some ups and downs. You guys have hit on it. As far as dealing with the fighters, and I'm at that point. I was at one of the fights, and I don't want to name drop anybody, but a prominent boxing person said to me, he goes, look, we've been waiting for a promoter like you forever, but you're kind of spinning your wheels a little bit. You're dealing with a lot of aggravation from, the fighters, the managers, the commissions, to get everything done in time. And, where's your lottery ticket, And my response is 20 fights into it, the fighters that you look at and says, oh, wow, I'd love to have a piece of him or that. By the time they've already come to me, they're already manager up, promoter up. I mean, they already have
signed with other people, contracts.
So at that point, I'm dead weight. I learned, I've seen enough on both sides how the sausage gets made, as they say, how to collect that money. And the truth of the matter is, I got into this for the love of boxing. I did not get into this to be a pimp. And to collect your money off these fights, especially on the club end, it's just dirty business, and I never wanted to be part of it. I mean, would I like to sign the next Mike Tyson up? Of course I would, but I mean, I'd also like to date Taylor Swift, and I don't think either is going to happen. But I always felt that there's a nobility in being a club fighter. We like putting on good fights, but the reality is in 2026, for a lot of reasons, nobody wants to fight anybody. Everybody wants to be, the king of their hometown. You touched on it earlier. You do a little bit for somebody that, nobody else would do. And next thing you know, for just, not even a ham sandwich, not even a better opportunity, but just because it's a closer opportunity, they will leave you. They will leave you in the lurch. And then I always get the same answer, but it's just boxing. And it's like, yeah, but in a lot of these cases, like I knew you from the real world, and it's not just boxing. Like, our word means something, and, it's very difficult. But on the other side of it was, I remember watching Oscar De La Hoya, fighting with Ryan Garcia, and he wasn't going to let Ryan out of his contract, and they're standing next to each other. It was all, and I'm like, I could never be in that situation. So if the right fighter says, wow, I like the way you do business, I'd like you to represent me, I truly believe I would do a very good job, but I don't want to use my fight, my promotion to be a stepping stone for somebody else. I mean, that's exactly what I've turned into. If somebody wants me to promote them, that's great. And I think I could do a pretty good job, but I don't want to trap someone with options. And what a lot of promoters do on the club level, I think it's kind of sleazy, is just because I have a slot and I'm going to give you a fight where you can make $20, you're mine. So now when a bigger promoter wants you, they got to call me. And I don't necessarily have their best interest at heart. And that's sort of what I see going on. And it's like I said, a lot of times the fighters fighters just don't know what's going on in their career. And it's just, it's a lot. And the answer is, if I told you what we dealt with on our last couple of shows with last minute medicals, fighters pulling out. We had a fighter for the main event, this show. We made the fight. You buy an airline ticket. You have 24 hours to cancel the airline ticket. You bought the airline ticket. I mean, we're flying this kid in from Argentina. They come through the normal matchmaking process. Match is done. 26 hours later, I hurt my hand. I don't want to fight. Well, now I'm stuck with a giant airline ticket that only he can use. That, you know what I mean? Like just little things like that. Oh, last minute things. Oh, your eye exam is on the wrong form. We have to send you back to get a last minute eye exam. Like the amount of medicals that I have on my credit card.
I know.
Is when I first started doing this, and I had the banker was looking at my stuff on her screen, and all of a sudden she calls me up one day and she's like, I shouldn't be asking you this, but are you okay? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, you have all these MRIs and all this on your credit card. I'm like, no. That's for boxing. That's for boxing.
Well, that was one of the things I thought about you, and that I think I casually mentioned what you're talking about now. What was the end game when you got into it? Because unless you're going to sign someone to a promotional deal when they become really a championship caliber fighter, it's not worth it. I could understand to fulfill a dream. Maybe, you'd run 2-3 shows or whatever just to
This was a dream, Jack. You gave this to me.
Yeah, exactly. And you earned it. But you earned it. But I'm going to tell you that rather than get on it all, I mean, and that's great getting on it. And I'm sure you'd rather have like a multi-million-dollar fighter. Okay.
I mean, I like to have a lot of things.
But... Yeah. But no. But the loyalty factor. Let me ask you this: has no names mentioned here? Has there been anyone so far since you started promoting who you had complete faith in who really let you down big time?
It's a list, right, Larry? It's a list.
Let's just say that if you dealt with me in the real world, and I don't consider boxing the way people for some reason don't feel like they have to act like human beings when they're in boxing. But it's like if we were in the real world and I owned a bar and I dealt with, my father taught me how to do business on a handshake. Like at the end of the day, we're all going to run into each other again. and it is what it is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Here, people will go scorched earth. They'll lie to you. They're with you today. They're with someone else tomorrow. They think, oh, well, and then 2 days later, they want to be with you again. And then it's just boxing, and it's not. And I've had my heart broken in many, many ways with many people. And, at first you blame yourself. Like, it's like, wait a minute, like I've put myself out there and I didn't, but and it was never about, oh, I'm going to make $1 million and sign this guy to, Top Rank. On my shows, it was, okay, these are the guys on the show. Let's try to make them as popular as possible. Like, here, let me just give you an example. We're talking about the Madonna's boyfriend. So here was our last show poster in Atlantic City. I did something that a promoter just doesn't normally do. And the reason was I grew up in Atlantic City. So I decided I wanted to promote local boxing. And I wanted to be like Don Elbaum, who we honored last year. Sure. I wanted to do club boxing. So as much as I love fighter X, Y, or Z, and I do, you would not be on my card unless I had feelings for you personally or your manager. And it's just, what we did on this last card, I'm actually very proud of. Justin Figueroa, who is from Atlantic City, and Josh Popper, who's also from a suburb of Atlantic City. The two of them went to the same high school. So instead of having my PR person, and PR enough, we pay them and they have a certain amount of hits and they work for you and they work the local connections. I brought both of them to their old high school. So instead of a club boxing show, I brought both of these kids, a 6-0 and a 14-0 boxer back to their high school, and they came home as the conquering heroes, which they never would be, because what promoter would bring a fighter back to their high school? And it was good little publicity. Yeah. And originally, like I said, the idea for Atlantic City was different than New York. Atlantic City was going to be like, I wanted to do like a local minor league baseball show, and the idea was, look, Josh Popper and Justin, they're all on the verge of going to the next level. At which point, you then need new people. I wanted to do the series. I didn't want to do the fighter. I wanted to be the guy who brought in local boxing. And it didn't matter if you knew Justin Figueroa was on the card or not, but if you saw Boxing Insider, you knew you were going to get good fights. And again, I'm going to have to name drop him again, just like Russell Peltz. You knew no matter who was on a Russell Peltz card, you were going to see good fights.
But wait, Larry, Peltz has been critical of promoters in general, and
I know, I just dealt with him.
Right, maybe you fall into this category, even though I never heard him mention you by name. He says a real promoter pays the fighter directly. They don't the manager doesn't have to buy fights. Now on club shows, it's tradition, the managers are buying the fights. And maybe that's because for a small club promoter to survive with all the extra expenses, I believe, I'm not certain, and Russell, who's a friend of mine, might get mad at me about this, but I believe that it's more expensive, harder to promote a small club show today than it was years ago because of all the medicals and all the extras that are now tacked on.
So the answer is yes. In a short, Russell's correct. However, let's just be realistic. If I could put on 5 Gotti Ward fights every time, I would. If you've ever been to Sony Hall, it holds 600 people. There's a business model. If a Ludabella, if one of these promoters that we deal with isn't putting on one of the fights, it's impossible. Now, in the old days, if we want to go back 15, 20, 25 years ago, I could find fighter A, give him $1,000, fighter B, give him $1,000, a couple $100 of medicals. There's your fight. If they sell 30 tickets each, we're good. Okay. Well, what do you do now in New York? It's $1,700 for medicals. $1,700 for insurance. Another $800 to $1,000 per fighter for medicals. Then, so you're at $3,000 already. A little bit, almost $4,000. Then I got to fly in somebody because nobody in New York or New Jersey will fight anybody in New York or New Jersey. So now you've got airline tickets. Now you've got, so to make a 4-round fight in New York City, a 4-round garbage fight with 2 guys that nobody cares about to open the event, if you don't bring in a manager or a promoter or a sponsor, you're looking at $8,000 to $10,000 for the fight that two of you are going to be sitting there talking over until the main event happens. And
what's a 4-rounder pay today, Larry?
It depends if you're on the A side or the B side.
Give me a high-low.
Call it if you're on the. I mean, if you're making your own fight, it's like eat what you kill. Like it's your ticket deal. If you're a B side, I mean the going rate for a B side right now is somewhere between $750, probably around $750 a round to $1,000 a round.
How important are ticket sellers on small club shows?
Oh no, they are the only thing.
The only thing on club shows, because your show is on YouTube, but usually for your shows, you have any type of small TV deal.
I've been on the Zone. I've been on SNY, and there's no money in it for a guy like us.
Any sponsorship that could help out a little bit?
Yeah, the answer is yes. There are in Atlantic City. We have a law firm, a baseball card store, Caesars Interactive. You know, they all give us a little bit. A doctor, but on the when we were on the Zone, I mean, it was a very low number to the point that certain people didn't believe it. And it's just.
But Larry, why not do this? This is what I would recommend. Like, if you were asking me going forward what you should do, you absolutely want to stay in boxing, you want to promote, I would say go to the Olympics or something, sign a really good Olympian, for you to manage, handle his career, whatever, and put the energy into that.
But Jack, that's hard. An Olympian's going to want to sign with Lou DiBella or somebody.
No, you could. Lou DiBella's not that big right now.
You know what I mean, Jack.
You're competing with
my
Zuffa.
point.
You're competing with Zuffa. You're competing with David McWhorter.
Oh no, they're not going to get.
You're competing with a lot of people.
But they slipped through the cracks. Some really good fighters. They signed the guys with the big names.
Yeah, but I've had good fighters come in my periphery. And I'm telling you right now, a local kid who can draw is more valuable than me developing the next Floyd Mayweather, for the simple reason that it's such a crapshoot, and the amount of money it takes to build a fighter, because now instead of just having to worry about the ace, now you got to pay both sides, and all of a sudden the fights are looking at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a fight, no TV money coming in, no ticket sales coming in, and all of a sudden to get him to 10 to 15-0 before I could even have the conversation, you need to spend real money. I mean, like, not like, oh, it's a couple $1,000s, it's a hobby. I've seen certain people put up hundreds of thousands of dollars on some of these fighters that anybody objectively will say he's not going anywhere. But they do it for the love. They need a place to put them on. Some of these fights are good. One thing that where we lucked out on very early on is New York, and New York has the strictest matchmaking standards. So you can't just go in and fight a schlub. Now, I can say that this is the first time I was ever embarrassed. Was the Josh Popper fight?
Oh, I saw that. Frank, I don't know whether you saw that fight. The guy John Popper knocked out in one round.
It was.
I thought it was better.
It was embarrassing.
He looked just like a young Butterbean.
That's it. We are insulting the great Butterbean.
Larry, I have a question for you. How many fighters are around today to make these kind of shows, these B and C level shows? I mean,
there's a lot of fighters, but they won't fight each other.
But there are a lot of fighters.
Sure. The answer is there's a lot of fighters. When I look right now, I would probably say there's 30 or 40 people circling that would love to be on one of my cards. Here's the problem. They all want to fight one of us. They don't want to fight a 50-50, 60-40, 70-30 fight. They want to come in there. They want to be 1991 Mike Tyson or 1987 Mike Tyson. I guess 91's a bad year. And they want to come in there and they want to, and it makes for, because and the problem is then they hold you over the barrel. Well, what do you mean? You have a 600 seat venue and I'm going to sell 100 tickets. So therefore I want to pick my opponent. And it's like, so we're not making matches. We're literally, and some of these negotiations are they're trying to figure out what is the worst possible opponent that they could get by me and get by the athletic commission. And that's not matchmaking. That's just, again, to quote Commissioner Hazard, it's what we're doing is BS sometimes. And it's just, and this is an industry problem.
Larry, but if on the other side, I'm going to play devil's advocate. If you're the biggest ticket seller and you've contributed tremendously to the show with ticket sales, you're obviously going to want to look as good as possible.
Oh, of course.
So you're not going to want to risk actually losing.
You don't want to get the local kid beat, but on the other hand, he can't go fight a broomstick.
But Larry, let me tell you this.
And by the way, what you're saying, Jack, what you're saying is what happened with Josh Popper. It's like we all knew he needed an easy step-up fight.
That was true. Yeah.
And then I took I took one look. I got a phone call from the matchmaker. He says, hey, the guy needs help checking in. So I drop what I'm doing. I drive over to the casino. I'm about 15 minutes away. I walk in. I call him up. I said, come meet me. I take one look at this guy, and I just said, oh, my God. Oh, my God. And, I've spent my life criticizing fights like I just put on. But again, in my case, it was a binary situation. Do I want the local kid who I can bring to the high school and do a local thing with? If I want him, this is who he's fighting, or you don't get him. It's a binary choice. And it's not perfect. It never works out perfectly. And it's just, it is what it is, but it's definitely one thing I've learned about boxing was, man, all those years sitting in the media, it just wasn't what I thought. It was, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, because it's just so much. There's just a lot of things that I see going around that just, don't necessarily fit my moral compass. And I'm not saying I'm Mother Teresa either, because I'm not. But, I see things. I see the way people are to other people, and it's kind of disgusting. And like I
Larry,
said,
I got to take my hat off to you. You have the right attitude, and you know what you're dealing with. All I can say is, years ago, there was not a person on the planet that loved boxing more than me. But after being around it, it's like, and knowing what I know, it's really not a sport where I would want it to be my main go-to as far as my livelihood. It really is. There are just so many things, even in the writing business. I see how that goes, and the cutthroats in that business, and
it's getting worse in the media.
It is, exactly. It really is.
And I also like to take a step back. We were talking about my promoting career, but I met Jack many, many years ago through Rusty Rubin at Ring Sports, and
I remember him.
And Jack, one of my early memories was I sneak into the wrong word, but I showed up at one of the Boxing Writers Association meetings, and you let me in, and I was a fly on the wall. And this was back when it was like these were all like serious people. It's not like it is today. Like it was like 30 years. Like I don't remember how. I don't want to age any of us, but it was a while back. It was at the Garden, and it was like it was all heavyweights at that table. And I've watched it, and I've had BoxingInsider.com for many years. I sort of let it. I was told by people that it would be a problem for me to be covering the sport and then asking the same people to either write about us as their competitor or write an article about them. And about a few months ago, I relaunched the website, and I just said, you know what? We are in way too important of a time with the changing of the Muhammad Ali Boxing Act. Nobody is talking about what this really means. Some of it's good. I am not one of those people that's anti-Dana White, anti-Zuffa, but I am a little scared of how this bill that nobody in the boxing industry asked for. And the only person on the House committee that actually understood boxing was Ilhan Omar. And I mean, I wrote an article about this because I kind of joking around saying, look, I've always been, and all of us, we've been sort of programmed that she's in the squad. We're not supposed to like her, and so I don't really give politics much thought in that regard. And I'm watching this thing. She was the only one that understood any of this.
Well, in 2004, when I was on the board of directors of the American Association of Professional Ringside Physicians, we went to Washington, D.C., and we went in Senator John McCain's office talking with him for 45 minutes. He loved boxing. Congressman Peter King loves boxing. But the other politicians, they don't really have the time for it.
They don't care about us.
Yeah, and the Muhammad Ali Act, is it really going to be followed completely? It's supposed to, and then if it's not, you got to take someone to court. But the way it sounds now, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, you're thinking whether you actually want to continue promoting. You're
no.
dug in. Oh, you are dug in.
He is dug in, Jack. I can hear that.
I've had some people who have showed me the ropes of this business, and one of them is Ludabella. And if you ever talk to Ludabella, he's MFing everybody in the business. The business is horrible, but he's still in the business, and that's sort of me. I love it. I will be in it regardless with Boxing Insider, the website. I've done 20 club shows. I'm trying to book a June date right now. We are working with some of the local managers in New York.
Boxing Insider's your website?
Yes. And I'm Boxing Insider Promotions, and I own boxinginsider.com. And I'm looking right now I'm talking to a few different managers, and I'm looking to make a return to New York. We have, a couple interesting announcements, but again, I've learned the hard way doing these club shows that I'm not just going to say, hey, I got May 15th, let's make a card, and then I'm struggling. No one wants to fight because May 15th only means something to me. I'm not calling up Sony Hall until I say, oh, I have such and such and such and such on the card. Great. Now I'll call up Sony Hall and book May 15th around them. So the answer is I will be 100% coming back to New York, but Eric Botscher, my matchmaker, said to me yesterday, he goes, look, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. No matter how good this fighter is or this one is, they're always going to be looking for the next angle. And you're your best friend today, and tomorrow they're going to go across the street, spit in your face, and then 3 weeks later we all have to be friends again. And it's difficult when again, you're nobody on this poster. My last show is on this poster because I personally didn't care about them or their managers, and it was something that I wanted to do. It's not a situation where we're just trying to pimp anybody out or whatever. Now, look, have I had fighters on the card that I didn't know? Of course. But
hey, Larry, have you done anything with Jim Kurtz's fighters?
The club lever.
Larry, have you done anything with Jim Kurtz or his fighters?
I love Jim Kurtz.
He's one of my better friends in boxing.
Jim Kurtz, I put in my last article, Jim Kurtz walked up to me after the Bruce Seldon fight and said, after the Josh Poppers fight, and says, because me and him, we grew up in both Atlantic City, so we like to bust each other's chops. He walks up to me and he goes, you can never ever give us or anybody a hard time over their choice of opponents after that. And I looked at him like, you're right.
It's a shame, Larry. It's a shame with
Jim's a good guy.
Jim is a great guy.
Because you did have a pretty solid show. Okay, otherwise.
No. Look, I can honestly say that after 20 shows, and this is all credit to Eric Botscher, I don't think we've ever had a show where people left disappointed. Now, I think we had one show that we had too many matches on and it dragged on a little long. And a couple of those matches were like kind of boring decisions where people put on fights that were, and then my claim to fame was we did a 3-fight show, 3. In New York, it was last February. We had 6 fights on Sunday. On Thursday or Friday, I don't remember what day of the week we ran, we had 3. Snow, BS, and financially I got murdered, but everyone in that venue was happy. And then I came back 3 months later. Talk about bad. Some of this is just luck. We come back 3 months later, and I made my first WBC junior silver belt match.
But I think, correct me if I'm wrong.
And we had to cancel it 2 days before the weigh-in.
Frank, you as well. I want to hear what you have to say. I think most people who go to club shows, unless they know someone on the show, one of the fighters, and they're going specifically for that fighter, I think it's a night out just of entertainment. As long as the fights aren't completely boring, I think they'd rather see a 1 round, a 2 round mismatch as opposed to an 8 rounder that's as boring as
boring and
anything.
just goes on forever. That's what
I rather let them get it over with, 1 or 2 rounds. Even a pop-up fight, I'd rather see that than 8 monotonous rounds because I'm there to be entertained. I don't want to be bored.
I agree, Jack.
Every once in a while, you get a stinker, but it's really just a matter of sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't.
Now we were talking about Johnny Buzz before. He was matchmaker for a show in Staten Island. This was something like around 1980. He had 5 fights on the show, and it lasted a total of 7 rounds. And I spoke to Buzz after the show. I told him, this is outrageous. This was like the worst show I ever saw, these mismatches. And he said, but look what a good time everyone had. People were mingling, laughing, joking between fights. They had a night out. And that stuck with me. People had a good time just having a night out.
I can tell you from a professional business standpoint, the fights that people thought I made money on, we lost money, and the fights the other way around. And sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes that ticket seller is boring as molasses, but he has a lot of friends. And sometimes, the fighter that you've never heard of, that an out-of-town manager is putting on your card, steals the show. And you really can't plan for this. Like, I couldn't have planned for how my main event ended the other night.
Yeah, but
Larry, you're based out of Atlantic City, right?
I live in beautiful Midtown Manhattan, but I am originally from Atlantic City. So that's sort of my geography.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, how many gyms are there in Atlantic City now?
You got the Atlantic City PAL, Pleasantville Recreation Center.
Pleasantville Rec's been around a while. I know that.
They closed. Julio Sanchez, shout out to him. He's Bruce Seldon's trainer. He's with our friend Jim Kurtz. He brought that gym back to life. It was his son. We used one of our local draws down in Atlantic City is his son, Jules Sanchez. So I took him. He fought on my. I didn't. So what I did in Atlantic City was different. I did when I got licensed in New Jersey, I was on the New Jersey website, and I stumbled upon a grant that Commissioner Hazard and them wrote during COVID that was giving certain gyms $65,000 if they did certain things, including an amateur show. And Atlantic City was listed. It's like, really? Okay, it's interesting. We had some, so I walked into the Atlantic City PAL for my first show. I give them a bunch of tickets. We matched that. We gave them $1 for every ticket we sold. We have a very good rapport. Every show we give money to the PAL. But what I did was when Tropicana was set up for the pro show, instead of them taking it down on Sunday morning, take it down on Monday morning. You give me a deal, let me rent it the other day, and then I donated it to the PAL. So we've done 2 Atlantic City Police Athletic League amateur shows where these kids get to fight the Tropicana. So on the first one, Julio Sanchez fought as the amateur. So then his dad calls me up because I want to take this kid pro. So he fought a guy that Russell got us for him at the last show. He fought, he comes out with the Pleasantville High School marching band, and it's like I said, it's a fun thing. Like there's a local community aspect to the boxing down there. But on the other hand, I'm trying to run an internationally, relevant website and talking about, the politics of boxing. They don't really want to hear about the, local kids marching band. So I am trying to balance the local show, which again, I love doing that stuff versus, what's palatable, because again, I can tell you that I've been on both sides of it. If someone sent me a press release 6 years ago about a local show like I was doing, I probably would have hit delete. But now I'm on the other side of it, and this was the first show where I just had a big smile on my face, and I was just enjoying myself. And we've given opportunities to people. Some people have done great things with it, other people have not, and it's been a tremendous learning experience.
Larry, some of the big name promoters Have you had interactions with them? Do you get the feeling they might look down a little on you, in a
I
certain
mean,
sense? Like you mentioned when you were in the media, you probably felt some of the big name writers,
the media
look
was
down a
awful.
little on you. Maybe you felt I was that way towards you too. I don't know. I know if I
The
was,
media
I
was awful.
apologize.
I mean,
Yeah.
What was awful, Larry?
The media politics are awful, and
Give us
look,
examples.
even though, look, now that I'm back running Boxing Insider, like for real again, one thing that they don't have on me is I will never in a million years put in for a press credential. So that's always been the carrot and the stick. You show up, we didn't like this columnist. It's like, like I don't even like, you're mad at me over some columnist or some guy wrote 10 years ago. Like really, and they go and, I'm in the bad seats tonight. And it's like, so I didn't like the media politics. I was always felt like, I was a second class citizen. There was this one writer, I don't want to out him, but he used to kind of help me run the website. He's with a very prominent website now. And we were standing outside of the Garden. There's, the hotel across from the Garden where all the top ranked people stay at?
The Penta.
What was that?
The Penta Hotel.
Something like that. And we're standing in there, and Dan Raphael, who I like as a writer, I'm not dissing him, but he's going to dinner with three of the biggest boxing PR guys, right? Four of them were having dinner. And I look at him, I say, you could be Shakespeare. He knows everything that's about to happen for the next 6 months, and all we're going to do is read about it. It doesn't matter how smart we are. You can't compete with that. And so there was a tremendous glass ceiling in boxing. And I learned, hey, look, they don't want to talk to me. I'd be in an elevator with certain people and they wouldn't even look at you. Now, these same people, they want to know every thought I have. So look, certain people, certain promoters, whether it's, Gabella or Russell, have been great to deal with. And they're just, I'm going to blush a little bit, but every time I talk to them, I learn something. And some of the big promoters, like I said, look, I've gotten compliments from some of the people, matchmakers, other people in boxing. They know what we're doing. Everyone kind of gets at this point who's a scumbag, who's trying to manipulate fighters, who's trying to rob money on the side, and who's here for the love of the game. And I can't say that Eddie Hearn and me are friends. I've met him in the media, but like I said, I like to watch him. I can only imagine, I'm a little nervous that Dana White and Jake Paul are going to be the two most powerful people in boxing this year, but it is what it is. I'm sure they're not going to invite me over their house for, drinks, but, I'm not looking to be confrontational with any of these guys. I respect them, but look, boxing's always going to need guys at the bottom. I'm not trying to be the guy at the top.
Yeah. We only have a couple of minutes. So, to wrap it up, do you have any plans for your next show?
I do, but I can't announce them yet. I don't have a signed contract. We have a verbal on a fight I've been wanting to make, but until there's a signed contract, I don't believe it's going to happen. We're going to be returning to Atlantic City in June, and I'm working on 2 dates in New York City this year. So,
can you tell us the venue in Atlantic City?
What was that?
Could you tell us the venue in Atlantic City where it might be?
Oh, well, we're at Tropicana. That's our place.
That's at Darnell.
Darnell
ran there for years. Larry, it was great coming on.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anytime you want to come on to talk about a future show you have coming up, we'll give you, a cameo at least, to come on, at any time. And guys like you keep the sport going.
Well, I appreciate that.
You're really the backbone of the sport.
Absolutely.
People don't realize it. The small.
Tell Jim Kurtz you ran into me, Larry.
You should tell him that you ran into me.
I'm going to do that too, but I have a feeling you'll talk to him before I will.
I think he's mad at me. No, I'm kidding. They've been great.
Okay, Larry Goldberg, New York and Atlantic City promoter. Done a phenomenal job.
And I just want to just say one more time that Jack Hirsch called me up and I got this, and this is one of my most prized possessions.
What does it say, Larry? I can't see.
New York State Boxing Hall of Fame presented to Larry Goldberg, Promoter of the Year 2023-2024.
Well,
nice.
you earned it, Larry.
In 2023, Top Rank, Eddie Hearn, and DeGuardia each did 2 shows in New York State,
Yeah.
and Boxing Insider did 6 of them.
You earned
Nice.
it. You out hustled them. You earned it. You out
They made a lot more money than I did. So I don't know.
You threw more punches than they did. You were more active. You earned it.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Larry, thanks for coming on. Looking forward
Thank
to
you for
having you in
having
the future. Keep up the great work. And Frank, any quick closing remark?
No, Jack, I guess we'll be back next week and just talking about the inner workings and what happens between now and then.
Well, hopefully my Michael Spinks book is out. It's out now. You could order it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And, and I'll have and hopefully at that point, I'll have Michael on in the next week or 2. Okay, guys, have a good night.
See you, Larry.
Thank you so
See you,
much.
Jack.